Xcorps Sweet Rides is brought to you by
SoCal Paintworks, San Diego's first choice in automotive restoration. Pro Touring F-Body, make your F-Body handle the way it should. Keesler Transmission, shifting your classic into the future. Ed Hansen's Muffler, where all your pipe dreams come true.
We're at Tom's Auto Service today working on the Bandit X project. Now we've got quite a few miles on this thing so far, and we've come across a couple bugs that we need to take care of, and one of those is the carburetor. Now, when we did the build, we went ahead and rebuilt the carburetor, put a new kit in it and stuff, but after a while, we got about 1,500 miles on this thing. It started giving us some problems. So we need to address that before we do any damage to the engine, because if it's running lean, you can cause some damage internally on the engine, and we don't want that. So we talked to SMI carburetors up in Huntington Beach. They sent us a carburetor, and we're going to get this thing exchanged out. So we called and talked to Sean up at SMI carburetors and told him what we were doing on our car, gave him all the specifications for it, and just like when we talked to Jerry down at Schneider, the cam needs to be tuned to the car and how you're going to drive it. The exact same thing applies to the carburetor. Sean asked us some questions about engine cubic inch, what kind of cam we have, what kind of rear end gears, what kind of tranny, and the carb that he built for us is actually custom built to this car. Now, a lot of carbs out there, you get them off the shelf, you got a lot of tuning problems that can arise from that because it's a generic carb setting for your car. But Sean up at SMI will specifically design the carburetor for your car. So he sent us the carb. I'm kind of anxious to take a look at it and see what it looks like. So this is the carb that Sean sent us. As you can see, everything's been completely redone. It's got all new anodizing on it. Everything's been all replated. It's got new bushings in the butterflies here that always get worn out. Now, the first thing you want to do when you get your carburetor from SMI is to take it out of the box and examine it very closely to make sure that there's no shipping damage on it or anything, to make sure the base plate's not cracked anywhere, make sure the throttle linkage and everything works properly, that there's no binding or anything. So if there is a problem, you can contact SMI and get that taken care of. Now, these quadrajets are notorious for leaking underneath by the throttle plates. There's a couple plugs on there that over a period of time deteriorate, and then it starts to leak fuel. So the one we got from Sean, they go through and they fix all that. They go ahead and epoxy those plugs up to make sure that they don't leak. So we're going to go ahead and get this pulled off, and the first thing we're going to do is loosen the fuel line. Now, put some rags underneath here, just in case some fuel does leak out. The rags will catch the fuel and it won't get down into the manifold because that could possibly cause a fire. So we'll get this line broken loose. Okay, so now that we got the fuel line loose from the carburetor, we're going to head and take loose all the vacuum lines that go to it. Okay, so we've got our fuel line disconnected and our vacuum hoses. Now we're going to take loose the throttle linkage here. It's got a little clip on it. Just take a little screwdriver, pop that thing off, and loosen up your throttle cable. Disconnect the spring for the throttle return. We'll loosen up the bolts for the carburetor. Okay, so now we've got all the bolts removed off of it, it's ready to pop off the intake here.